Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. And I'm Hannah, and I would usually start on a whole spiel about how we are a podcast where we do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time, with my fabulous co host, Laura. But today, you're getting me a little bit solo before we enter into the podcast because we are actually releasing a Patreon episode for all of you wonderful fans in the month of December. We're releasing one of our favorites we've ever done. It was an SVU Law and Order episode. Laura has not had much experience with these shows, and I have had quite a bit because SVU was one of the shows I watched during a not so great time of my life, and it was easy to watch and easy to get through, and I appreciated it. So we kind of did a little bit of a deep dive there. And we are releasing this episode to kind of let you guys know a little bit of information. We revamped our Patreon system. Patreon is pretty new. It's about a year old, but we are still trying to do our best to get it off the ground. And to make it more accessible to a lot of different fans, we did revamp it. So we have a new membership tier at $1 for a supportive fan. This is just someone who wants to give us a little bit of support as we work hard for this podcast, help us get some of the books and other things we need to make this podcast happen. And that supportive fan, we are going to start giving everyone a printable bookmark for each season we do, something you can print at home and use as you read along with us. And then every tier member will also have access to our Patreon members only Discord channel. So if you are one of those people at $1 a month, you get to have a Patreon Discord channel where we often go a little bit more off the rails. Laura and Hannah are pretty active on there, so make sure you're joining that. And then we did revamp. We have the $3 a month casual listener, which is still an option. Again, you get a printable bookmark, you get the Patreon members only, and then you get early access to our seasons and our reading lists. You also get some exclusive voting power, at least one extra vote per indie mission or other voting, and then a Q&A thread for each episode that you can ask us for questions or follow-up that we can either answer on air or again in another thread. So that's just some access that you have with the casual listener. And then we have our number 2 fan, which is $5 a month, which has all of the things of the $3 a month, but with an actual extra episode per month. A lot of times we will do watch-alongs or reviews of movies that you've never seen or want to see that are usually pretty terrible and pretty amazing. And that's where this Law and Order episode came from. We also will give you another vote in any of our Patreon polls. So that's a little bit special. And then we have a $10 a month version where you get all of those things. Plus, you get a patron shout out if you so choose. And then you also get to pick a book for the host to have to read and review. I have done this before. It is a ton of fun. And then you also will get a monthly mini-sode rant or additional information episode. Usually these will be about 15 minutes long. And this is a brand new thing that we're doing. And we hope to just, get a little bit more information. This is a revamp to make our Patreon a little bit more active on our end. We've always had the extra episode a month or watch along, but we want to get you guys more information about behind the scenes stuff that Laura and I do, and just get you everything in between. So because of that, we want to show you some of what the Patreon looks like. And I know this month we're even putting out more episodes on Wheel of Time show with 2 people who were on for the first half of the season. We have them on talking about the second half of the season, and that will be a Patreon exclusive. So make sure you're checking out for that. And, just make sure you're following along and make sure to join us next week. And, with that said, I'm going to kick it over to Laura and Hannah After Hours Patreon episode. Welcome to our Patreon,
which means on Wednesdays we Patreon.
On Wednesdays we Patreon. Wouldn't that be our Patreon?
I have no idea. You're the one that comes up with the acronyms.
Welcome to our Patreon. On Wednesdays we Patreon. Except it is a Tuesday and Laura and I are just sitting on our couches holding microphones because we're taking this a little bit more chill. This will be our first ever episode of the Patreon. So welcome all you bonus content people.
They're going to be so mad they paid for this.
I know. It's oh. We're not going to do any of our reading, watching, or enjoying this episode today. It's just a wild ride of Hannah's favorite topic, Law and Order SVU.
Hannah, this is really a wild ride of a show.
Oh my God, can I tell you that like I got so like Laura picked this episode. I okayed it. And then I immediately got angry at the one she picked, like with no reason, because I watched it too recently. And I was like, this fucking show.
I looked up a bunch of episodes that were like shocking to people. And this was one of them that was on lists that shocked people. And I remembered watching this like when it first came out, because this was in the middle of my SVU era, which was when I was in high school. And I specifically remember this episode and thinking, what the world? So,
okay. So we watched season 9, episode 1, alternate, starring Cynthia Nixon as 5 different people. Or is she?
Cynthia Nixon portrays a person who has DID, dissociative identity disorder,
which is,
and let's just say that Cynthia Nixon won an Emmy for this role in this show.
So here's the thing. I think all great actors, it's kind of like you and I always talk about how like the great authors want to write books about books, you know, and then people become obsessed with them because they love books. I'm pretty sure every actor just wants to play someone with dissociative identity disorder. Like they're just obsessed with it because like I can really chew the scenery on this one.
Yeah. And I also think that there's just like a thing where actors really want to be a guest spot on SVU, and some of them really do a good job.
Yes.
A really good job.
I think I liked Cynthia Nixon's performance the first time and the third time I watched it, or the first time and the second time I watched it in the last year. The third time was a little much for me. But that might be on me.
That's on you.
That's on me. Well, okay, and also this is my favorite episode to come in on because literally at the end of season 8, just so you guys know, I can't watch the final episodes of season 8 anymore because it's too much. You find out that, okay, in earlier episodes, Ludacris of Justin Bieber music video fame. And that's
his claim to fame. Okay.
No, it's actually his claim to fame is actually one of my old roommates in college used to randomly tell me she really liked a song. And then I just realized she liked all songs featuring Ludacris. And it never occurred to her that that's why she liked the songs until I pointed it out. Yep. She would just independently be like, oh God, I really like that Baby Baby song. And then she like picked out 2 other songs. And I was like, dude, I think you just like Ludacris. And she was like, oh yeah, I do. And so Ludacris, amazing, Hannah's roommate fame.
Amazing.
So in the season 8 episodes before this, he plays a person who murdered someone. And he is a cousin to Finn Tutuola's son, Ice-T's son. And then you find out that he's not his cousin, he's his half brother. And oh, by the way, Ludacris is the product of incest.
Oh.
And during his trial, he brings up all the bad SVU things that they've all done in seasons past, which, hey guys, don't hide your...
That would take forever. That is an episode in itself.
And so like he trots it all out and then he gets acquitted because they're like, we don't trust that Finn Tutuola didn't maybe set you up for this murder because SVU people are corrupt. Like this is a plot line. And then at the end, he walks up to Ice-T and he's like, you have to respect me now. That's not what he says. And then Ice-T is like, I'm never going to think about you again. And I'm like, really? He seems to disrupt a lot of your lives. Like, I feel like I would never stop thinking about him. I feel like that's just a line to say like, you don't matter. You poor tortured son who my ex-wife hated because of where you came from. Like it's bleak. So literally the opening of this episode made me laugh so hard because Olivia gets suspended because she helped her brother who was a suspect in a murder. And so she got suspended and she comes back and Finn
with short hair
and Finn who had an ex like nephew get acquitted for murder is like, hey, nice hair. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, it's such a weird beginning where there's too casual and he's like, hey Liv, nice haircut. And she's like, thanks. I didn't know if I should do it. I didn't know if I should do it because I was suspended.
And
like,
literally,
no one cares what you do with your hair.
Ludacris is just walking around the streets of New York free as a bird, guys. Like, and
They forgot about him, Hannah.
Oh God, they really did. They were like, "Hey, we don't want to write about Ludacris anymore. He was a
They
guest
forgot about
spot
him.
for 2 episodes, and now he's done. All that matters is the trauma he left behind."
And in the end, it was the journey.
It just makes me so mad how nonchalant they were, because I was like, "Oh my God, literally the episodes before this were the Ludacris episodes. Are you serious?" And
Well,
then
and they mentioned at some point that Elliot's daughter had gotten a DUI previously,
which had happened. Like,
there's also that drama that apparently he tried to cover it up or something.
Okay. But in the Law and Order SVU like universe, that happened like years ago, almost like it happened.
Well, then why are they?
So it happened okay, so
she's still doing probation for it.
Okay, no. So here's the thing: it happened way earlier in the season that she got caught with drunk driving, and Elliot like goes to the precinct where she got arrested, and they're like, "Hey, we kept it off the books. Like, no need to thank us." And he's like, "Oh, I appreciate it." And then it comes back a couple of times where people just keep being like, "Elliot, you let your daughter off with the DUI. You are unethical." And I'm like, Elliot does so many more effing unethical things than letting a police officer cover up his daughter's DUI. But I guess that's the one we're stuck
even in
on.
this episode.
In this episode, there's so many like rights violated, but like all they can ever talk about is how he gets Maureen off of her DUI. And
even the captain like earlier mentions something like, "Yeah, Liv just got suspended and Elliot tried to cover up his daughter's DUI."
And it's like, yes, that is a very serious thing. And she was underage when it happened. But also, he does so much worse than any of this.
Yeah.
So that happened like episodes and episodes ago. And they always bring it up like she was Ludacris who murdered a woman. Like they never, the reaction
they can't forget about the DUI, but
proportional.
They've all forgot about Luda.
Poor Luda just had to go on to start his own Justin Bieber works just for nothing. So that is literally what happened. And so later in the episode, oh God, there's so many funny parts about just Elliot and the members of SVU in this episode that make me chuckle. And one of them is Maureen waking her father up to bitch about having to do community service. And then telling her, oh, sorry, what?
Go ahead.
And telling her mom she's too old to have a baby when it was like, she literally had Kathleen when they were 17. Honestly, that's not that big of an age gap. Like, she's
probably just 30.
She's just in her 30s. It's a perfectly reasonable age to have a baby. Like,
that's fine.
If you think about it, their mom is probably like, okay, Maureen's the second child. So like they probably had Maureen when they were 19 and she's probably 18 at this point. So Mrs. Stabler is like a hard 36 because she's married to
36,
Elliot. So like that does
ish.
have wear and tear on you. But she's a 36 to 37-year-old woman. And Maureen is like, "You're too old to be pregnant. They're going to think it's my baby." And I'm like, well, I think that's just what happens to like children whose parents were really young when they had them.
Yeah.
I think that's just something that happens. Maureen.
I agree with that. I think that that's kind of just a thing.
And then she's
also, it just happens in families where there's a lot of children sometimes where like you have an older child. Like I know even in my husband's family, he has a big family and he's the oldest. So the age gap between him and his youngest brother is pretty sizable, even though they're all like 2 years apart. And it's like, well, he's quite a bit older than his youngest sibling. But it's not like they were like super old.
My mom had a huge family and the age gap between the oldest and the youngest was 21 years. And it's like, sometimes when the parents would take the kids out to dinner, they would only pick 4 at a time and they would pick some of the older ones and some of the younger ones. And it was like grandma and grandpa taking out the grandkids for a dinner out. Like that's just what happens. Okay, Maureen. So you need to calm down and pay for it. She's like, kids at school are going to see me. And I'm like, you're in college, Maureen. Maybe you should get over the cool kids seeing you pick up garbage in New York City. It kind of sounds pretty normal, honestly.
The interactions with Elliot Stabler's family, though, like in every single episode that they are in, the daughters are so over the top.
Oh my God. They're the worst.
I'm just like, is this why Stabler is so stressed that all of his children seem to be ridiculous? And the mom seems to be fine and he has the most complaints about her.
Also, in the previous season, they had been separated. And then
okay.
they had been separated, and then they were thinking about maybe getting back together, but they hadn't done it yet. And then
but then they get pregnant.
She pops up one day at the office, and he's like, "What are you doing here? Wife's name?" And she's like, "I'm pregnant, Elliot." And that's how they get Elliot Jr. or Eli, even though they already have Dickie, a boy in the family. And it's like, why was it Dickie Eli and Eli Dickie? It does not make sense.
Yeah, why wouldn't you name the first one?
Well, they were so much younger back then. So they get a fresh start with this new baby when the mom's 37. And they can pretend that all of those kids aren't their kids anymore, apparently. Anyway, I digress.
Weird.
Cynthia Nixon has...
So Cynthia Nixon appears right after we comment on Olivia's haircut.
Not just Olivia's haircut, but also we have to comment on or she like comes in and she's like, "I have to say something." And Olivia's like, "Well, sit down. I have to go talk to the captain." And then you find out the captain got moved because his entire squad was in shambles and Elliot's daughter was driving around drunk for some reason.
And Munch was promoted to sergeant.
I know. And okay, can we say this right now? Munch was the best police officer in that entire episode, and he just gets pooped on the entire time when he's just doing his job. Like
they are also. There's one point where Elliot Stabler says something like, "Munch, I don't care if you're the police commissioner. I'm not listening to a word you say." And in that moment, I have never wanted to like reach through the TV and grab someone more. I wanted to like shake Elliot Stabler and be like, "You are so rude."
I was watching this episode like Munch is a more effective captain than I've seen the captain be in this here 9 seasons. Like the captain just acts like they're like buddy who's like, "Come in, let's talk. You gotta keep it straight." And Munch is actually like doing an administrative role, which is what he's supposed to be doing, where he's like, "I'm not gonna sign off on the cost of that."
Exactly.
Like it's just like, let Munch have the captainship. He's doing a much more effective job. Like he's like, "Hey, she asked for a lawyer, we need to do it." And the captain's always like, "See if you can bend the rules a little." And I'm like, propaganda, Captain, don't do that. Oh no, you froze.
I think it's like on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there's that Captain CJ that is like promoted to captain because he was just in the right place at the right time. I'm wondering if Dan Florek was in a situation in SVU where it was just kind of like, "Oh, whoops, I accidentally opened my car door and took out this drug cartel."
He's such a bad and then they're like, captain.
And so then they're just like, "Oh, you want a space heater? Yeah, Dan Florek said I could have one." That kind of thing.
It must be, but they all like are obsessed with this captain because Olivia walks in and she's like, "They can't do this to you, Captain." And he's like, "Well, you were hiding a fugitive, and Ludacris was a murderer, and
Phil's Ludacris
driving around drunk, and so they're making me move." And she's like, "This is ridiculous." And then they're all mad at Munch. Who's like, "Dude, I just wanted to win a bet, so I became a sergeant."
Yeah, they're mad at Munch.
And it's like,
and Elliot's like, Munch. "I will never listen to a single word you say." Oh, Elliot. So then right after that, Cynthia Nixon comes in and she's like, "Hello, I'm a doctor. And I just wanted to report some information that one of my patients told me that she was scrubbing her baby and she would not come clean." That little whore or something like that.
It was, I couldn't get the little... She says, "I couldn't get the little slut clean." And I remember, I remember thinking that is the most awkward line reading I have ever heard.
I kind of cringed listening to her say that whole thing. I don't like that.
Okay, here's the thing. Cynthia Nixon was on Sex and the City, guys. And I watched all of Sex and the City a lot. And I can tell you that she has definitely used the word slut before, and it's never felt more awkward than when she was trying to do that line reading.
So many things are uncomfortable about her in this role.
The pigtails. Poor
that whole outfit choice.
Did the wardrobe
keep going
not like her? So anyway, oh god, her vest at one point, she must have just angered that entire wardrobe department. They're like, "Hey,"
or they really thought they were doing something. Sometimes they think they're really doing something and they're like, "Oh, have we got the outfit for you, Cynthia Nixon? You have never seen a vest like this one." And
It can't
It's
milk
just
a
terrible.
spider unless you have a vest on. It's a rule.
So we find out that in the process of them trying to horribly muddle this case because they do not know how to track someone down very well because they ask no questions and just let this person leave, which is
They
so
take her
frustrating
business
to me.
card and they're like, "Oh, you're a psychiatrist? No notes. We don't need to see an ID. We don't need to get your information. Here, we will take this business card. You will leave and we'll go do a wellness check on your patient who has patient-doctor confidentiality. So probably shouldn't have been in here in the first place, or should have called the police because it sounds like this was an emergency situation instead of walking your little behind down to SVU. Like, what were you thinking, Cynthia Nixon?" So anyway, they go to her apartment, they enter, they can't find the baby, and this lady comes over and they were like, "Why is the psychiatrist holding the baby?" She said she never met the baby. And the lady's like, "I don't know.
Janice.
That's Janice. That's the mom." And they're all like, and everyone can't tell you how, like, fast enough how unfriendly Janice is. They're all like, "Oh God, you should really meet Janice. She's a bummer to hang with."
Yeah. You find out that Janice, her job is working for a museum, and she goes around and milks spiders at different places around the city and milks them.
Yes.
And so this is like a really unique job. And the way that they fit this into her vocabulary as she's talking to them in interviews is disturbing. I don't like it. And it
told you by the third
doesn't
time,
always fit.
The third time watching this, I was real bummed out. I was not having a good
Sometimes
time.
they try too hard to fit it into the conversation too, where they're like, "Oh, you've got a wonderful dead long legs over there."
But she uses the correct scientific terms.
She uses the
she's a scientist. But anyway, so they're like, "Well, she was pretending to be this doctor." And one of them's like, and Munch goes, because Munch is the only effective detective. I should have known. She said her name was Anna Young. That's a play on Freud and Young. And they're all like, "Oh, I don't like you, Munch, go away."
Is that when Elliot Stapler says, "I'll never listen to a word you say"?
No, that's after.
Oh, okay. It's
Janice
not yet. He still respects him at this point.
No, that's after Janice asks for a lawyer, and Elliot's like, "I'm not going to listen to a word you say. I'm going to go back in there and violate her Miranda rights." They're like, and Munch is like, "Unfortunately, the lawyer's already in the room." It's just like, what the heck? Come on.
But before this happens,
so they're going on a wild goose chase.
They're trying to find Janice.
And they're trying as hard as they can to find Janice. They go to a rectory for no reason.
Just because Janice may have been there.
Just because Janice may have been there.
Well, serious. That's kind of what it was.
They're just like,
she says, "Yeah, she was here last week." And they're like, "Did she say anything?" And she was like, "Yeah, she said a lot of things to herself."
To herself? I thought she was crazy. And then I thought, like, did she say she thought it was like the devil in her or something?
Yeah.
It was very strange. No notes to that lady's acting. But
great job.
Yeah, good job. So anyway, they're still looking for Janice, which technically is cop work. In their defense, you are supposed to try to hunt down a lead, but boy, are they ineffective at it. So then they just go wandering around a park, and they spotted Janice.
They're looking for the baby at a park because they're like, "Oh, there's a lot of babies that could be like people posing with babies, that could be like." I don't know. And there's one part where, like, do you remember the part where they're like, "Hey, there's somebody with a stroller over there," and Finn goes running up to them and he's like, "Hey," and then he's like, "Have a nice day at the park."
Also, that is a terrible reason to be in the park. To be like that, I think there was a better reason, but I prefer Laura's reason of lots of babies are in the park. Oh God.
Yeah, there's a lot of babies that are there, like people with strollers and stuff. Go take a walk around the park, Finn. And then,
well, he stops someone because she's wearing a hoodie. So it's Lake who ends up.
He's like, "Go over there, Finn. Somebody wearing a hoodie."
Lake is the one who gets microaggressed in future episodes. That really made me
don't like that.
But But yeah, so they're wandering around the park, and then in the best cop work ever,
and then they're like,
they
caves, spiders are in caves.
Well, they said that's one of her favorite locations, and I'm like, you think you would have looked at that beforehand? It seems a much better idea to say,
randomly
hey,
running up on people with strollers.
hey, like you're in a location where she has one of her haunts. Why are you going there? They also find out they use the phone number on her card to call her psychiatrist. And in the best detective work ever, they go, is she a client of yours? And he goes, I can't answer that. And they go, well, we know the answer is yes, because if she weren't, she'd be able to say no. That's the best police work Elliot does the entire episode.
Tricky.
So anyway, they go to this cave and they're like, Janice, where's the baby? Where's your baby?
I'm not Janice. I'm Tammy.
And I'm too young to have a baby.
I can't have a baby. So at this point, we now have 3 identities that she has. There's Janice, there's Dr. Young, there's Tammy.
So they start.
And we know from Parks and Rec that Tammy is not a good alias.
She is definitely Tammy 4, and
She's Tammy 4.
Unfortunate.
Tammy Swanson 1 is Ron's mom, and then the other 2 Tammy Swanson's the first wife and the second wife are 2 and 3. So this is Tammy 4.
Tammy 4. And so they're questioning Tammy, and Tammy's like, I'm a baby.
Which is weird.
So uncomfortable. And so then, like, okay, obviously at this point, either this woman is suffering from mental health issues or lying to you. But in Elliot's mind, he could just scream at her and she'll snap out of it.
Absolutely no tolerance for anyone. Like, his fuse is so non-existent. It's like he instantly is mad about things, and it's so frustrating to me to see him interact with people in this setting where he's trying to get information out of them, because all he can do is just bully people. That's the only thing he knows how to do.
Unless he suddenly gets like a modicum of empathy, and then he goes so hard for those people.
The only reason he will ever get a modicum of empathy is if they have kids, or if they are
Catholic. Or
they're
Catholic. He really loves the Catholics. And like, also the way he screams at this woman, the screenwriters are writing it down like, of course, Elliot Stabler loves children. He's gonna scream at her over the children. And I'm like, no, he just appears to be screaming at a woman with mental health issues.
Yeah.
That's effective. And like, it's so strange. And Olivia's like trying to be like, Tammy, do you know what happened to baby? I can't remember the baby's name. And she's like, Bert has her. And she's like, well, do you know where Bert is?
Bert heard her.
No. Bert Herdlinger.
I can't remember the baby's name either. What is it?
I don't know. April? The baby's name
April, that's right. Yep.
Okay.
This is the only reason that I'm like, I don't know why, but the name Savannah was like popping up in my head. And I'm like, why do I think it's Savannah?
It would have been a better name than Dory.
We'll get there. Okay. So they leave the room for just a little bit, and then April has a lawyer when they come back in.
April does not have a lawyer.
I'm not April. Oh my gosh.
Elliot starts. Laura has to remember so many names, guys.
There's too many names in this episode.
This woman is brimming with personalities. Okay. So she says that Bert has the baby, and then Elliot starts screaming at her, and then all of a sudden we get this Russian woman who I could not remember the name if I tried. And
that's her protector. The doctor.
That's her protector.
Later,
and she comes in and she goes, "You leave her alone." And she is Russian. and so then she says, I want a lawyer, but in a better Russian accent than I can do.
Sure.
And so this is when they come out, and Munch is like, hey, dude, she asked for a lawyer. And they're like, we need to find that baby. We need to not have a lawyer.
He says, like, I'm going to do a press conference. And they're like, no, we do not need a press conference. We think we can get Wong to get the information out of her using hypnosis. And he's like, yeah, like most of the time DID is overdiagnosed, but I guess I'll try hypnosis. And they go back in and she's got a lawyer. And they're like, oh, dang it. And
but also the Russian isn't there anymore.
no, it's
Dory. And Dory has got the hots for Elliot.
Yeah.
And
Elliot's just kind of like standing over there in the corner. And she's like really eyeing him. And he like leans down and is like, hey, if you want to make this guy go away, all you got to do is just sign this little form and waive in your rights. And then he winks at her and like, stop. Elliot,
okay, guys,
munch fire him now.
It's so illegal. It hurts because the whole thing is like Dory doesn't want a lawyer. She's like, I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong. He's an idiot.
Bye-bye, butthead. Bye-bye, butthead.
God, I hated that line so much. And so
I could have written this episode.
The lawyer is like, hey, I understand. They're like, she's trying to waive her rights. And he's like, which personality? Like, she's not knowingly waiving her rights. And so then Elliot's like, hey, sign this name, not your name. Sign this name. And then he has to go away.
Janice.
Literally, guys, that's not legal. You can't have someone unknowingly sign away their Miranda rights. Like, once he's her attorney, she has to knowingly give away her rights. She's not knowingly doing anything. She's not the dominant personality in our minds at that point. That's so freaking illegal. And Ellie's just like, come on, do it, baby. Do it for Poppy. Like, it's so annoying. I hate it so much.
And then she's like, hey, can I see your gun? Where's it at? And he's like, it's in my locker.
Tell me where the baby.
Tell me where April is. I'd love to show you my
is.
gun. Tell me where Savannah is and I'll show you my gun.
And she says, it's in Georgia. Get it right out, Poppy.
Yeah. I
And
don't know where she is.
And then they try to get Wong to hypnotize her. And she's like, I don't think my doctor would like that. But also she can't answer any questions about her doctor because apparently she doesn't see him very often, even though she doesn't. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense proportionally.
But somehow the doctor gets there.
Well, they call him up, I guess. And he like comes and he's like, can I speak to Janice? And Janice
he hypnotizes her.
And Janice is like, I took the baby to the babysitter. And they're like, do you remember that? And she's like, no, I remember the caves. And then they want to talk
about the brown recluse.
Oh, the black widow spider. I was milking it for venom. And so then they like try to get Bert out. And so far, like, then the lawyer finally gets there who's going to prosecute this case. And she's like, this is rock solid for me. And I'm like, is it? It seems like it's just
don't think so, but
full of bad holes. And so then like suddenly Janice's sister appears out of nowhere and she's like, I'm Janice's sister. That baby was mine. She's not missing. She's with my landlady. And they're all like,
isn't there a moment where she like throws a chair though when they're
because Bert
trying to hypnotize her? Yeah, this is the Russian that comes back to protect her when he presses.
I thought it was Bert and he started screaming, April is never coming back.
Oh, maybe April that was Bert.
Never coming back.
See, I was under the impression we never got to meet Bert.
Oh no, he was screaming April.
He was just legend. Bert was just legend in my mind.
Bert, it did exist for a moment on screen, and he threw
well, then
a chair.
Cynthia Nixon needs to work on the differentiation between Bert and the Russian lady because their voices are very similar.
You mean she needs to work on her screaming Russian versus her just screaming?
Yes. It sounds too similar.
It's very similar. Anyway, so then
the sister appears
and she's like, April is mine. I've been in jail for heroin use when I was 8 months
April
pregnant.
The entire day.
And like then they make comments to this woman's face about her being arrested with heroin at 8 months pregnant. You know, like addictions don't exist.
Awful.
And she's just like, hey, can you like not do that? And then in the most like weird thing, earlier Wong was like, no one has split personality unless they were abused. And so they just sit her down and they were like, hey, do you know if your sister was abused? And she's like, I don't think so. She ran away when I was 16. And they're like, well, were you abused? And she was like, yeah, it started the night my sister ran away. And it's like, that's a good logical leap you just made there, honey. Good job. You should be on SVU. You might be a better detective than all these
possibly.
other people.
But then for whatever reason, and they do this a lot, which annoys me, they have Janice listening in on them talking to the sister.
Well, they have that. And then they also do the worst thing I've ever seen people do with mental health patients who are obviously in crisis. Because, like, if we are to believe that she is a multiple personality person in a mental health crisis, you want to know what you don't do? Try to prove to her that she has multiple personalities by showing her photos of herself. Like, they show.
And then Olivia, like, standing up and being like, look, Dr. Young, who is that there? And she's like, well, that's you. And
you're standing next to Janice. And she's
like,
is
well,
this like
that's
a
you.
trick mirror?
And is this one of those mirrors that has tricks to it?
And it's just like, don't do this with someone
like, I don't understand the joke.
This is not funny. Where's Janice? I need to speak with Janice. And it's just like, don't do this with someone who like is in an emotional crisis right now.
Right.
And then they have her listen in on the sister who's admitting to all this horrible abuse she suffered at the hands of their father. With their mom watching. And she's like, well, I would have told someone. I would have never done that. And it's like, again,
she's like, I would have told a teacher or somebody I trust, like Detective Stabler, which I hate that she says I would tell Detective Stabler.
You know what made me so mad on my third watch of this?
Watching it for the third time?
Watching it for the first time, it finally hit me. Dr. Young doesn't speak to Stabler at all. She mostly speaks with Olivia.
Oh,
why would
there's so many moments where things don't add up where you're like, wait a minute, that's something she mentioned as a different personality. Right. How would she know that?
And so that was my first, like, well, the first time I watched this, I was just watching it to not watch anything else or exist.
Sure.
The second time I was watching it, I knew what was happening. The third time I was watching it, I was like, God, I'm watching this for the third time. I have to know.
You're like, why have I watched this so much?
I watched this so many times? And so, yeah, she's like, I would have told someone like Detective Stabler. And I was like, Dr. Young, you've mostly talked to Olivia Benson. Why wouldn't you tell someone like Olivia Benson? It seems a little heteronormative.
And this is where I'm like confused because I'm like, were we supposed to think that she had switched to another personality? That she was
supposed to assume she's still Dr. Young.
Okay, because that's what I thought too.
Well, also,
but at the same time, I was like,
being screamed at by Elliot
Stabler.
The only personality who liked Elliot Stabler was Dory.
Dory.
Tammy got screamed at by Elliot, and the Russian tried to choke him out. And Bert is just pissed at everyone. And they haven't really met Judith yet outside of hypnotization. Janice.
Judith may be there too.
You never know if she had to keep going down that well.
Oh my gosh.
This does sound like a horrible like name book of someone who just wanted to create personalities. So anyway, she like screams about how she would have never done that. And then Janice comes back out.
Then Munch is like, here, do you need a tissue? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, here, sit over here with all the company files.
And then he walks away
with all of our HR records over here.
I've got 3 years of backlogs and a daddy long leg.
When he comes back and is like, hey, don't touch that. That's important. And she's like, I'm just trying to figure out who I am. This is so embarrassing.
Where I am.
Janice?
And it's like, Janice, do you come to with all of your multiple personalities and just start rifling through whatever documents are in front of you? You're surrounded by people. Like, you could just ask, like, excuse me, do you know where I am?
Yeah, and that's the thing where it's like, so she discovers all the HR files as Janice. This is helpful to remember as we get farther along here.
So Janice is just rifling through HIPAA violations.
Yes.
And just looking at everyone's personnel records and being like, oh, where am I? Maybe this letter offer of employment will tell me where I am. And then Bunch is like, hey, what are you doing over there? And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know where I am. And Olivia's like, I'm Detective Olivia Benson. And she's like,
she's like, I'm Janice. And she's like, have we met? And Olivia's like, actually, No.
And also, don't say that to someone in a mental health crisis who suffers from TID. That is incredibly insensitive, Olivia.
My gosh.
And also,
we're laughing about this a lot, but I will just say it's because of what we find out later in the episode that we can laugh about this.
Because otherwise,
it's
just
us.
a horrifying exhibit of mental health.
Yes.
And people should know that there's never actually been an actual diagnosis of DID that has like been verified. Which you think, doctor?
It's very hard to prove.
Yeah, you think? I would think that the two psychiatrists in the room would be able to say a sentence like, "It's never been proven before," but Doctor What's His Face is like, "It's just really argued in the medical industry," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's mostly argued against."
Well, Janice's doctor is writing a book about it.
Oh my god,
Janice.
On Janice, and particularly like Sybil, but Sybil does exist in this world. Don't worry about that. So anyway, they all like walk away from the situation. They're like, there's no baby missing. But like, then,
well, I guess we can just release Janice into the custody of her sister.
But everyone's like, hey, do you think that's a bad idea? She just found out a lot about herself. Like she suffers from extreme mental health issues.
And her doctor's like, I think she's in an immense place of growth right now. I think she's going to do great. This is a great experience for her. Like, really? I don't think it is. Like that baby's being taken away from her that she's been raising.
Right. It's like she had a baby for a year and it just got taken away from her by her sister who got out of prison, who like wasn't going to live with her, wasn't going to like, was just like moved across town.
Her sister's abuse was just revealed to her.
Right. Like maybe you shouldn't be doing this right now, but they just kind of send her off a little pat on the back and like, hey, don't violate HIPAA. Like go
Have
for
fun
it.
with the spiders.
Have fun with the spiders. Go rifle through all these documents to
say hi to that lady at the rectory. Bye.
And then they go home and Elliot has his wonderful talk with his daughter where she screams at his wife for being 36 years old.
Yeah, she's like, I hate probation. Everyone can see me and I'm embarrassed.
I'm in college.
Give me something inside to do.
It's like, where is your community service taking you? That you're like, are you on campus? You're in New York City and you live in
It's funny because it's like she has either so many friends or they put her like in the most public place ever. It's like Today Show's on TV and she's got to like clean up in the background of the Today Show or something.
I just know that they're like, well, we have to show his wife pregnant in this episode before what happens next happens. So how do we get there? Well, Maureen is supposed to be doing community service for her drunk driving. So she could scream about how embarrassing it is to be a college student who does community service. And it's like, dude, awful. I wouldn't have batted an eye. Like So anyway, he goes off to
picking up trash is like not that bad at all. Good.
So his cell phone rings and they immediately go to two dead bodies and they're like, it's Janice's parents. They were murdered with a shotgun.
And they're like, what? How could that happen? She was like so stable.
She was so stable. I can't believe it. And then immediately after driving all the way across New York City, Stabler gets a phone call and he's like, Dory's at my house.
With a knife.
With a knife. And he gets there and he goes, this is one of my favorite conversations of the entire episode. Stabler gets there. There are police officers who are barricading his house. He walks up and he goes, where's my wife? And they go, she's still inside. And he goes, she's still inside. And they go, she wouldn't leave. And he goes, would it or could it? And I'm like, this seems like bad police work to me. Like the woman's
obviously
in there with a knife. Like, did you think Stabler's
it's not like she was
just
going to come in and be like, you're free to go and if you want, I'm just going to stand here with a knife.
And then
that's not a hostage situation then. And
then the cop goes, well, Dory's not letting her leave. She said she wants to talk to the both of you together. And I was like, why did we have the entire previous line of dialogue? Like you could have cut all of that out and been like, where's my wife? She's inside. Dory insisted on talking to you both. End of story. There's no like, would it or could it to that. She obviously can't with the dialogue. Like so bad. So Elliot goes in and Dory is like,
she's like got her legs crossed and she's wearing a mini skirt and like I want to say it was like a polka dot.
Yeah, polka dot
top with pigtails.
And it's like, Dory.
And she's like all giggly and Dory, and she's like talking about her love story with Elliot Stabler to his wife.
Love
at
at first sight.
It was just amazing. He winked at me and I signed away all my rights, and it was the greatest.
He was so manly. And then she's like, Dory was very upset when I came home, Elliot. And Elliot was like, Elliot's wife, you should leave. And then I feel bad. This actress is wonderful, and people were very mean to her online. I just could not remember. Yeah, because of the whole people who want Olivia Benson and Elliot Stabler to get together. They bullied this poor actress, and the actress does a great job at being this piece of shit's wife, honestly. She seems great.
Who could do it?
But Elliot's wife, I couldn't remember her name if you asked me to. Elliot's wife has to leave, and he like is talking to Dory, and he's like, "Don't worry, we'll be together. It'll be great."
And she's like, "Dory, goes safe. Bert's gonna hurt me."
And then Olivia comes in behind them because she's here too, I guess, even though Elliot ran away in like the fast-paced life he lives. And also as Elliot's
life he lives, he's just like always on the move.
Well, he like ran out of the apartment with the dead parents so fast, and I was like, oh, Olivia left with him. Like, it seems like he left without like her. Okay, I guess she's here now. But also Dory at one point goes, she's kind of fat. And I'm like, are we to assume that Dory doesn't know what pregnancy looks like?
I think it was just them like needing another moment to like point out she's pregnant.
Or how crazy Dory is. I don't like the crazy word, but like how awful she is. And it's like, dude, what the heck? Like this poor personal, like she's in love with Elliot. It's going to be a hard life for Dory, honestly.
Yeah, Dory, she really fell in love with the wrong person.
So anyway, Olivia Benson sneaks up behind her and grabs her. And she's like, it's Bert. He's gone.
She's like, save me, Elliot. Save me.
And so Casey, the attorney, wants to charge her. And she is like, no, she's definitely fit to stand trial. She murdered her two parents in cold blood. She knew what she was doing. I'm going to take this to trial. Weirdly enough, Casey is seen in many other episodes as incredibly sympathetic to people with schizophrenia, which is similar to DID, sort of, but not really.
I don't know the history on either of these, or any information on either of these, how they're related.
So Casey, do you mean like the DSM like analysis of schizophrenia?
Well, I know what schizophrenia is, but I don't know how it's related to DID.
Well, because like DID is like also like technically if we were to assume that DID exists, like they're both in the DSM as diagnostic orders. And like if you have schizophrenia, you can have like auditory or visual hallucinations. And that's similar to like under DID, if you think about it, like there are certain things that your mind has to like blanket over to make it exist, similar to like when Cynthia Nixon is looking in the mirror and she's like, that's Janice. How is that happening? Like your brain is fixing the issue for you to like make it seem fine. I'm not sure how they actually exist on like, I probably misspoke in the way where it's like, they're not the same, but you would think that it's like, if your ex-fiance had schizophrenia, you would understand the implications of having an extreme mental health disorder.
Sure. Yeah.
And Casey does not give two craps. She's like, nope, we're charging her. We're taking it to trial. She's going down. And it's like, this is incredibly fact specific for this woman to like not understand mental health issues.
Right.
And also, so like, this is where the lawyer stuff gets in. Sorry, guys.
This is the part I like, where we get the real analysis.
I mean, it's not fully perfect because I am not a criminal attorney. I do not sign off. This is not related to my job, nor do I speak on my
asterisk.
Yes, I have to say this because I have to say it. This does not involve my job whatsoever. But like Casey has a hearing that we see off screen, that we don't see at all. Sorry. It happens off screen where we find out that Janice is fit to stand trial, which means that she is able to assist in her defense. which just means she's competent enough to like stand trial, because like you
Right.
can have severe mental health issues and still be fit to stand trial as long as you can aid in your defense, I believe is what we're working under this
Okay.
episode framework. There's also, you could still be found not guilty by reason of insanity if the jury can find that you did not understand what you were doing at the time you committed the crime.
Okay.
I think that's the reasoning. So there's two different portions. It's like, can you help in your own defense, which is fitness for trial? And then once you stand trial, were you criminally like culpable because of your, like because you were fit it's kind of like a whole thing. So at first they do the hearing to see if she can aid in her own defense. She can, so they move to trial. And the psychiatrist takes the stand and he's like, she has 5 personalities. And Casey is like, aren't you literally writing a book on this? And he's like, yes, I am. But I was writing it before I met this perfect specimen of.
It's perfect that I found her.
And
it's almost like she found me.
Well, and then he's like, and like she was under severe distress. She just found this out. Oh, also one of my favorite lines from that psychiatrist earlier in the episode, they're like, he's like, well, I can't tell you anything about Janice unless she unless she is going to hurt herself or someone else. And they go, well, she may have scrubbed her baby or like heard it, like said that she couldn't get the little slut clean. And he goes, well, that can't be good. What?
How did we forget that line?
I forgot that line until this moment.
And the look on his face too when he says it. I'm remembering this now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that doctor.
She said she couldn't get the little. Well, that can't be good.
5-star review on Yelp for that guy.
Oh God, he's so terrible. So anyway, and he's like, well, she was under extreme distress.
We're back at the trial.
Yes, we're back at the trial. And then it like flashes to the sister who's like, we had just found out we had both been sexually abused. And Janice got this really weird look on her face and just left. And I was screaming her name and she just walked away. And Casey's like, okay, so she was calm and collected.
Right.
And so then they put up Janice on the stand and Casey's going after her something fierce. And then
she really always does this. They do this specifically with Casey. I have noticed that she has to like go on attack mode on these people.
Casey is one of those people who has the worst personality of the entire series. And when she loses her bar license, I don't feel bad about it. Like she does so many terrible things. And I feel like she got crapped on a lot by the writers almost.
Okay.
Because like at the end of the day, nobody likes Casey. Like no one likes Casey.
Yeah.
She's kind of the worst. Everyone just wanted Alex back, who is literally in witness protection at this point. Mm-hmm. And then does come back, but it's heavily scarred. And it's like, how did
then she goes back into witness protection. I remember that.
Oh, no. So the whole thing with Alex is she has to go into witness protection. And then she does come out of it for a trial. And then she does have to go back into it because she's still in danger. But then one of the crossovers, they were like, hey, we would really like Alex to come back as an attorney. And so she comes back and she's like, I'm out of witness protection.
Oh,
this is a random thing. And then she works there for like 6 more months and she's like, I can't do this. And it's like, why was she here?
Right.
Anyway, it's a long story. So like Casey is going after Janice. And so of course the angry Russian comes out. I wish I could remember her name. It feels very rude to just call her the Russian. But maybe if they gave her any more personality other than screaming, we could have remembered her. And she comes out. And so the jury acquits her because they think she is not guilty by reason of insanity. Mm-hmm. Casey is like maligned in the presses. I also love how often like these cases just hit the presses hot. Like everyone is just like waiting
the
for
second after the trial. They like have a paper with a big picture on it, and it's like DA flops.
and she's like, oh, these headlines, and I'm like, who is reading this newspaper? And like, why are these DAs so famous? Like, I do not understand. This is state court, everyone. So anyway, she gets off And then for some reason, they're looking at a picture of the sister holding the baby. And in the background is a book with lots of articles on, you guessed it, DID. And so they go talk to a cellmate who lived with her for 6 months. And she's like, dude, I can't believe that defense worked. She read that Sybil book 1,000,000 times. And she and her sister definitely planned it. Y'all are idiots.
The whole thing so they could kill their parents.
And so they go to talk to Janice and they're like, I can't believe it. You were just the greatest actress ever. And it's like, well, she did win an Emmy. So that is fair enough. And then Elliot's like, my favorite
I just looked it up.
Petra.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, Petra. Okay. In our defense, that is a not very memorable name unless you're watching Jane the Virgin, in which Petra is queen. But they like come up, they're like, they put a resounding like acting skill. And literally Elliot goes, my favorite was Dory. And I'm like, your favorite was the one who held a knife to your wife? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I was like, that can't be your favorite. That should not be your favorite, Elliot.
You shouldn't have walked over thinking that. I would have been like, I'm so glad I yelled at that child.
I know it's supposed to be a joke on his part to be like, my favorite is Dory. But it's still, it's like, no, never say that. Never say that.
Like, I feel like it would have been better if he was like, I am so happy I screamed at Tammy now, because now I know she wasn't an actual child.
I feel vindicated for yelling at you.
Yeah, I feel so happy that me trampling on your rights wasn't actually trampling on your rights. Everyone could go to sleep happy now. That's any of those lines would have been better than my favorite was Dory. So then you see Cynthia Nixon look at them with all the hope of winning an Emmy in her eyes. And she was like, I was good, wasn't I? And the sister's like, shut up, Janice. And she's like, well,
she's like, can't do anything to us now.
Double jeopardy is in place. And they're like, yeah, we can arrest your sister because she
and so they do
to commit the murder with you. And she's like, no, you were suffering with battered child syndrome.
Yeah, she starts yelling, Cass, you have battered child syndrome.
And it's like, well, why didn't you try to use that as your defense there, honey?
Right.
That might have actually been a defense. It was a mess.
And that's how it ends.
And that's the end of the episode.
What a mess.
What a mess. And Olivia went on to have a wonderful hairstyle.
Actually, I do like that hairstyle.
I do like that hairstyle a lot. And that's
it's
power.
One of those things where like Finn makes that comment and I'm kind of like, okay, is that like a joke or like, I do like that hairstyle.
It's a good hairstyle. I agree.
She can pull off many hairstyles, I will say.
Yes.
Here's my thing with the way that this ends. I don't like it because it makes the assumption that all mental illnesses are being faked. Even though DID is a very touchy one.
Yeah.
It's still kind of, it's within that Law and Order time where it seems like they don't believe in mental illness, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And it's like the assumption that, oh yeah, all these things are made up. So anytime anyone, has any kind of mental illness, it's made up. That's definitely not something that could ever happen. It's just them being a really good actor. And that's why I don't like this episode the most.
I get that. If DID wasn't so like hard to prove and how they like haven't had an actual case of it, I would have felt different. But I also don't like how like in this universe, most mental health to SVU is faked unless the person is being victimized. But then like it still gets to use a disorder that isn't very proven. Like it would have been better to have this as like a disorder that isn't easy to prove and like everyone's arguing over it and then the person still gets put away and you just never know. Like that's
right. That would have been a better ending rather than them like saying, oh, she actually faked it. Although I like I said, I remember this episode when I watched it in high school and thinking, oh my gosh, she faked it. So that's the shock factor that they want high schoolers to have. And
high schoolers especially. This is a show that is meant only for high schoolers. I mean, we are the target demographic for this show. We are white women of a certain age. But yeah. So I I get what you're saying. I do feel a little bit better since it's DID. If it were some other ones that they're also awful about, it makes me a little bit more
DID
comfortable.
kind of live within the same family of like BPD also?
Well, BPD,
like borderline personality, because aren't those ones that are often confused?
I don't know a ton. I know like the bare minimum about BPD, I will honestly say. I know that like there can be
just Googling it, it just says that they have concurrent symptoms. So
okay. And that just means like concurrent symptoms means that they're like similar or happen with the same one. So they're easily like misdiagnosed.
right.
But BPD is also more about like you can't accurately assess the world. And like you have a lot of, and this is obviously I'm not an expert on this. So like there are certain things that come with BPD that don't come with DID, but I agree with you that the entire SVU premise of mental health is incredibly flawed.
Yeah, it's just really bad. And that's why I hate the ending of this, where I do wish they would have made it more gray, where it's like, we don't know if she was actually suffering DID or not. I don't like them making it she was faking it, because that just plays into their whole narrative that they've been pushing for a few seasons of mental illness is made up. And that's not good.
Well, even when they have mental illness that is like proven mental illness, like I've told you about the episode where like the guy is obviously had like a psychotic episode and didn't understand what he did. And literally like Olivia Benson wants to have retribution on him because he hurt her partner. Sure. And it's like, he didn't know what he was doing at the time. So he's like legally not aware. So why would you want him put in prison over something he is not actually aware of?
Right.
Like that is so messed up as a police officer. Like it's not your job to pass judgment on people. And that's kind of like what bothers me about the whole Elliot thing, like trying to take this woman's attorney away. And there's so many times in this episode in particular, like so you and I definitely come at it from two different stances on this point, where I'm like, there is a lot of bigotry in the world, and the way SVU treats mental health is horrifying. But what makes it extra horrifying to me is the positions of power they're in and the way they manipulate that. Like they get to manipulate their own bigotry, and like it is awful. So like even Olivia Benson, who is like seen as this bastion of goodness with people,
she's the one that's carrying like, Tammy, I'll help you find April.
And she's supposed to be this sweet, loving person. And she comes in at like 2 different times being like, we got to get her to waive Miranda. And like Miranda rights are specifically, so like if people tell you something, they knowingly understand the consequences of their actions. And they're trying to trick a woman who all they think is in a mental health crisis at the moment. And that is just awful, because you shouldn't do that. And like, that's a ton of false confessions come from either misuse of power or a false understanding of intelligence, or like,
and Olivia and Stabler do this all the time. The misunderstanding part, where they use their position to not explain things well enough and convince people to give up information. And then those people are like, wait a minute, you said this or that. And their lawyers are like, they manipulated you. And they're like, well, they lied. And they're like, yeah, they're allowed to do that. And they do.
Yep. And they are allowed to do that. And so like, it's just, and it's all through this lens of like, as long as the ends justify the means, it's okay. And it's like, let's not have that happen.
Right.
And we excuse it because in this like particular case, like it's cops dealing with sex crime. So it's like, well, of course you're going to be horrified by it. And it's like, yes, that is very true. Like I have met people who worked in like computer crimes who were like, yeah, I had to get out after 3 years. Like I mentally couldn't handle it anymore.
Sure.
So like, I'm not saying it doesn't wear on you, but also you still have to do your job. You can't just try to put all the people away in all the wrong ways because they're bad. Like people still have rights for a reason. And that's why we had like a ton of like false confessions, because police officers thought ends justified the means, and they just don't.
Right.
And so like that's my problem is also like it's one of those things where it's like these people are bigoted towards mental health issues, and then they use it and they don't question their own things. And like at its best, all the cops should be acting like Munch does and having ethical arguments about stuff like, well, what happens if we violate this woman's rights and get her to talk when a like police or when a lawyer isn't there and she asks for the lawyer? It's like,
right.
That's important. And like Munch is the only good cop in this episode. He's just doing his administrative work. And then he gets in trouble for spending money on resources to make sure like a child was saved. Like, let's talk more about why
they're all mad at him. Like, the phones are ringing off the hook, Munch. Way to go.
And like, they also like, they hit on certain things, but then fail to recognize. Like there are so many episodes where they want people to identify someone visually, but then the second that they have to like ask the public to come in, they're like, oh, all these wackos are going to make false identifications. And it's like, I wonder if there's something hard about visual identifications and the way people
like
view
it's
the
never
world.
accurate.
Weird. That's only true if it works to your benefit. So like,
there's
So this episode broke me the third time around. I will now be skipping it. I fully like, I think as time goes on and I rewatch Law and Order more and more, I will have less and less episodes that I can actually stand.
And you know what? To me, watching some of these like this that are like some of the more like out there episodes, I really prefer those to the ones that seem more real to me.
Yeah.
The ones that are more real to me of SVU, I'm just like, no, I'm out. I can't watch it. It bothers me. The way that they handle things bothers me because they always handle things poorly. I'd rather have them handle things poorly in a situation where I'm like, this is so out there that I just don't see it happening. And I feel better about it that way rather than this being a real life situation that I could see happening.
This one just bothered me more because every single episode of Law and Order SVU, they trample on someone's rights. They just do. It happens in every single episode. But in this episode, it made me more upset because they're technically dealing with someone who has mental health issues.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly uncomfortable, even if you know the ending, like to know that they were willing to do that. So like, I would much rather watch the Martin Short episode a million times where he is a psychic.
Martin Short. Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Where he is a psychic, then
that one to me is out there also.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking more of like the episode that we mentioned in the main feed that I had watched and was very uncomfortable with. That has that Dennis what's his name?
No.
O'Hare? Is that his name? Dennis O'Hare, maybe.
My favorite is when Link in this episode goes, you guys really get the nut jobs. And it says, and Finn says, yeah, ask a bunch about the time the white supremacist shot him in the ass. And it's like, great callback. Everyone remembers that episode.
Gosh.
But like, oh my gosh. But even those episodes, so like the white supremacist episodes introduces a secret agent, not secret agent. That's not what they're called, but that's,
an undercover agent.
An undercover agent who's like in the white supremacist group. They bring her back a million times. And then you find out she murdered someone. Several
episodes.
But then you find out she murdered someone.
Yeah.
So like, this show, man, you can't trust Ludacris. You can't trust cops.
Anybody that's a repeat, like anybody that looks somewhat famous, you've seen them somewhere, call suspicious. They're always bad.
There is the old trend of like, if you see someone super famous on Law and Order, expect them to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Because that's where they get their acting chops. So
yeah,
when you see Kate Mara, you have to be like, oh. When you see
Alfred Molina and Angela Lansbury as mother and son,
oh my god, I forgot about that episode. Angela Lansbury
and Bradley Cooper is the lawyer in that episode.
He is?
Yes.
Weird.
So there's a lot of star power there.
Oh my god. This is such a wild episode, guys. You got to hear us talk so much about just the worst kind of stuff.
I'm again thinking that people are going to be mad they paid for this.
Well, we have some more fun Patreon stuff for everyone. This was just us starting out because
we may do another Law and Order episode though, just because we kind of enjoy them. So.
I mean, if I have to rewatch this over and over for the rest of my life because I just can't seem to stop, someone should pay me for it. That's
right. Yeah, I think that's only fair.
I willingly watched this a third time today. Like I had watched it recently enough.
3 times today?
No. This was just my third time. But today, like I got off work and I was like, there is a chance I could do this episode cold. Like just not watch it. You wouldn't have gotten Hannah's wonderful iteration of I can't tell you about her unless she's going to harm someone. Well, she probably murdered her daughter. Well, that's not good.
That's not great.
That's not great. See, I would have missed wonderful lines like that, but I did willingly watch it this third time because I was like, I could get away without doing it. And I was like, Hannah,
and I thank you for that. I thank you for that.
You're never gonna see April again. Poor Elliot Stabler's wife.
And you know what?
Better.
Cynthia Nixon, congrats on your Emmy.
Honestly, not really sure how you won it.
I think it was the Dory portrayal.
Dory was a rough watch.
And the screaming. It's Dory and the screaming. That's what got to people. Her extreme emotions.
Was it Petra? Was it Bert? Who knows? Certainly not Laura.
One of them. It's hard to say who was who. I didn't even think we had met Bert.
You just thought Bert was like an off-screen persona.
I really just thought he was the one that got away, you know, that we never got to see Bert, and he was just kind of rumored.
Can I say that I do find it weirdly amusing that like Cynthia Nixon, when she attacked Casey in the courtroom, went immediately for the choking? Doesn't she like immediately choke her? Am I thinking of yeah, I was like, that's a bold move to immediately go for someone's neck to like protect
what was she
yourself.
supposed to do? That's really the only place she had access to.
That's fair. But like
she just grabbed her hair or something and like
I mean, she could have thrown another chair. She chose.
That's true. You would think those are probably like pretty heavy though in there.
I guess.
I would think they are.
I don't know. It's so strange. Guys, if you have a particular Law and Order episode that you would like
let
us
us
to
know
cover
which Law and Order episode you want us to cover. I'm specifically thinking the John Stamos episode. That one I will never forget. Okay,
it is ingrained in my mind, him sitting in a bathroom poking holes in a condom. And that's how they arrest him.
Oh my.
That is how they arrest John.
But you know what,
Stamos.
Hannah? There's so many Law and Order episodes, Law and Order SVU episodes that we could cover. So patrons, let us know if you have a specific episode you think we should cover or what you would like to hear us cover.
Yeah, I think next month we should cover a fun read.
Yeah, we better do something fun so people don't bail on our Patreon.
Yeah, it can't just be us doing renditions of
we'll do something fun. We'll do something fun.
We won't get into mental health issues and the
we promise we'll do something fun.
We will do something fun next month, but definitely let us know. This is our first Patreon episode ever, so you're getting us a lot more loosey-goosey. Laura and I both like sat down, grabbed our microphones, and laid back on the couch very comfortably.
We are really comfy and having fun. So
we hope you enjoyed this first episode.
Thanks for your support, patrons.
Thank you so much. We hope you enjoy this, and we'll definitely have more voting on what we should be doing. And make sure you know that if you are one of our high payment, or no, that's the wrong word.
If you are extraordinary fan, right?
Thank you, extraordinary fan. You get to pick a book that one of us has to read. We have a whole year to read it because we are mood readers and
because Laura is slow.
And it has to be under 600 pages.
Because Laura is afraid.
And Hannah has a job as a lawyer, but not these kinds of lawyers. So make sure you let us know what book you would like to pick and we will read it for you. So next month we will probably do maybe a vote on what we should do next month. So keep an eye out for that poll so you can help us decide.
Yeah.
All right. See, until next time. Bum bum dun 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 dun. dun.
Never. We are slowly like standing up, the two of us, and like looking sideways into the camera.
And
No,
it's going sepia toned in the background.
Oh gosh.
And then it's us just walking out of a courthouse, even though the police should never be at the courthouse as often as they are.
They are
have
all
other
the time,
jobs.
just in case they could get shot on the steps.
Like, honestly, guys, I never go to the courthouse unless like I'm in the trial or I'm trying to observe someone. What are they doing? They have too much time on their hands.
We're getting back into it.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're leaving. We're leaving, and we're out.
Bye.